Hey, this is Tiger. Welcome to my stream. What you just saw is the opening sequence for the Train Sim World 3 for the first time on my stream. And yeah, I was thinking we need something to make this a bit more enthusiastic to get into the stream. I don't have music to do my voiceover in the beginning. Maybe we find something for that. We have just one lightning strike, and it is hard to talk over a lightning strike. Yeah, this is what Train Sim World 3 looks like. Completely new user interface. The trains and routes can be accessed separately now. You can pick a route, you can pick a train, and then the route, or the other way around, just as you like it. We're still having some problems getting all our routes here on the Epic Game Store. That's why I'm still missing the rush hour routes and the Train Sim World 2 core routes, but we have been promised that this will be fixed until the end of the weekend. So, to play it safe, I want to run one of the core routes in the Train Sim World 3, the Southeastern Highspeed with the Class 395 Javelin high-speed train. And we are in for some tutorials about French in-cab signaling and French train control, KVB and TVM-430, but this only at the end. Well, I think I'm one of the few people who actually liked the old user interface, because I just got into the game when this was the first user interface that I saw in the game, so it was the unique user interface for me, and I liked it. I thought I preferred the old one, but I think this is just because it was the old one and what you got used to. And I'm totally happy with the new one. What do you think, AJ? Old one, new one? You like the old one better? Okay. Well, it's the new one anyway. We are picking the Class 395 Javelin train. But I wanted to spawn on foot to get to our train so that we have a bit time to look at it. So we are picking Faversham as our departure station, and the service that I want to run departs at 6:20 or something, and 6:26 I think, so 6:20 should be just as well. And to set the scene, I think I will start at March 2nd. We have just a little chance that we will get some snow, and it should be about the time where the sun goes up. Dynamic weather. Very, very nice. I really love it, the dynamic weather. So, Feversham to St Pancras, not St Pancras. And here we are with purple clouds, and there the sun will come, and this is our train over there, and we have the one more Javelin and the 375 for the commuter services. Can see that people are wearing winter stuff, and baseball caps are really the hype. Lady, I'm sorry, I just want to go up those stairs to my train. Everywhere you look, baseball caps. And this is the 395 Javelin train. We don't have to set up the rear end, so we can just have a look at the interior. A train built by Hitachi from Japan, and the cockpit looks like a toy from Japan that we had as a kid. Look at those passenger information system boards. They are really nice. Alright. There are no passengers in the train so far, but this is not surprising because I think this is the first service for this train here. Or at least there had been, or it is one of the trains that returns to St Pancras, so there is no reason for people to stay in it. Yeah, bot tagging still works in Train Sim World 3, and this is the cockpit, and this is why I said it looks like a kid's toy from when I was young, with this black plastic surfaces and those edges around the switches. I love this train, it's really nice. And what we have a lot of security systems. We can turn them on already. We have the AWS, PWS, obviously, since we are in the United Kingdom. We have a DSD device. The vigilance device is always on by default here on that train. And then we have the French systems, and the French systems, they have their own box down there. The KVB, we will look into this later, we just have to turn it on so that it works, and the TVM in-cab signaling for the high-speed parts, not isolated, normal. And close the box again. And then we can already look at our train to set it up. We still have plenty of time until the passengers have to board to look at what our train can do. We have a display here. Some of it actually works, not everything, but some of it works. You have a very rudimentary journey screen. And you can have the speed displayed here, and you can look at the key codes, at least. Okay, can set the brightness. But that's fairly it. We can set our lights. Day running? No, we're still in the night, so let's have the night running stuff. You can see the 375 leave. This is the panel with the door controls, heating for the cab, and on-train memory recorder. You can see here the light will be a little later. This is a black box, an event recorder. And we have 3 different modes of running this train, 3 different modes to get the electricity in the train. We have an AC, a DC, and a CTRL mode. And we will have to switch that when we get to Ebbsfleet, because here on the more rural part of the track we will be running on a 3rd rail. You can see it here, and so we need the DC variant. And then Ebbsfleet we will switching to the overhead catenary that gives us much more power and we can go faster. And then we will have to switch to the CTRL system, what is not short for control, but it is short for channel tunnel rail link for the trains that come from France. We have our KVB display here that actually works now. What is important, our line voltmeter that shows us that we have some voltage from the 3rd rail, and the light for the main circuit breaker. So let's power up the train here press and hold the DC until the light gets lit. Oh, it does not work if I don't put the master key in, obviously. If you want to train, then I will energize you first. Okay, and then I can get the DC, so for future reference, always turn on the master key and then reverse it to neutral, and then you can set up the mode where you get your energy from. CTRL is for Channel Tunnel Rail Link, the railway that leads to the tunnel to France, and it has its own specifics for the electricity that comes through the overhead catenary. At the moment we only set it. The main circuit breaker is still off. Also the shoes for the third rail are still down. Let's see if we find them. I think this is the shoe for the third rail, and if we click here, they are going down. Can you see? Now they are touching the third rail, and then we are set and can go. If the MCB, the main circuit breaker light, is off, then we should have electricity when at the same time the line volt light is on. And I can put the camera in a place where I can see the passengers, if there are any. The Channel Tunnel Rail Link. Well, you don't have to remember that. It's okay if you just know which buttons to push so that you know when to connect to which electricity system. Let's close the doors. Let's get the reverser to forward, the brakes to minimum, and then the brakes to off, and then the power handle. This is our speedometer. We have an accelerometer that tells us if we're accelerating or decelerating, and those are the dials for the brakes. We can see that we are rolling. We have to keep to 15 line speed here first until we are across the switches. One camera to the back, since we do not have a roadrunner system or something like this. We need to know when we are across the switch so that we can accelerate. Or you just memorize at what point the tip of your train is supposed to be until you can accelerate. So for example, if you memorize that you have to... Oh, there is another switch, so yeah, obviously we have to go to the left side of the track. So we cannot accelerate before the train is across both of the switches. And then you have to memorize your markers, like a little hut like this, or a signal, or some signpost, to know that then now the train is across, and if you memorize that as soon as you are past this little hut, you can accelerate. You will totally see that accelerating with the third rail is not as explosive as with the CTRL overhead catenary electricity, because this is not actually what this train is built for. Mainly it is built for that it can work with both, but it prefers definitely the overhead catenary. So what do you think about the lighting in the Train Sim World 3? Whistleboard. The klaxon on the train yeah, the lighting is gorgeous. That's what I think. It is a bit soft inside, and you cannot actually open a window. But it has a nice gimmick that the Klaxon actually gets louder when you're traveling faster. So starting with 160 kilometers, it will get louder. Yeah, kilometers or miles. The funny thing is, as long as we are running on a third rail, we will have the speed clock ticking in miles per hour, while when we are switching to the overhead catenary electricity, then we will be measured in kilometers per hour, because all the stuff with the French system works with kilometers per hour. So London St Pancras will have all its speed signs in kilometers per hour. Can go to 85 here, across the flat countryside in Kent, I think it is, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. So the train is rolling nicely, but I don't know what you think, but I think it feels a bit laid back and relaxed, this acceleration here, and how the train is going with 90 miles per hour. It is a totally different story compared to the high-speed parts. But from Ebbsfleet on we will have the high-speed part to London St Pancras. That's why I picked this service here, because we will have both. And we will have the switching, obviously, from third rail to overhead catenary. There was a little speed reduction incoming somewhere around here. Yeah, I think this is after this bridge here to 85. So nothing spectacular. Just for a couple of meters. Just after this bridge. Here, 85. And soon after it is already lifted again and we're back to 90, but already closing into Sittingbourne. This train actually for the AWS magnet has still this very bell sound. It sounds very much like a real bell. I'm a bit late on the brakes, I'm afraid. So I have to do what you are not supposed to do, apply more brake power than 60%. But this is actually challenging for me, that sometimes you are in miles, sometimes you are in kilometers, and then You have to... Wow, see? And you're shooting the platform. That was a blopper. Okay. Because obviously for the passengers it is less convenient if you brake so hard that they fall off their chairs and all the luggage is maybe falling out of their overhead compartments and stuff. So it is possible to do more than that, especially in an emergency, but you should not do it if you want to apply the best practice rules. And why was I so late on the brakes now? Because I forgot that I am running with miles per hour instead of kilometers, and had my brake curve for the kilometers in my head. You can see dynamic weather. All of a sudden it got foggy, it got misty. I'm still figuring out when is the best speed for accelerating or for shifting the different stages of your throttle. At the moment I'm doing it rather early, so yeah, it's kinda eerie. Yeah, what that meant is you have 4 stages for your throttle, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the question is when do you shift them to get the train moving to the best of its abilities. And at the moment I'm trying to do this with hearing or listening to the sounds, and this suggests a rather early switching. But we would have to do some tests here. It looks nice with the mist, doesn't it? I think there should be a sign restricting us to 70 close by. The vigilance system makes a lot of noise. Yeah. If you're actually able to see beauty in trains. Yeah, it's very neat. I like the blue color scheme and this rounded design. I think we are on a 70. Oh, we oversped at some point. How did we do that? What I have not yet figured out are those buttons here. TVM arm up, TVM arm down, TVM disarm. I don't know if they are functional and what they do. If someone knows, please let me know. The sound is really nice too. This rolling sound that the train makes, that is super soothing. So this time I try not to be so late on the brakes. Not forgetting that we are traveling with miles and not with kilometers. Sometimes it gets... Oh, it's... I see that I have been speeding when I only get 15 points on the top right instead of 30. Then I have been speeding. I must have been. So. That stop looks way better than the last. Rainham. Okay, that was a bit of a harsh change between the mist and the clear. Yeah, the fog lifted really fast. So fast that I forgot to apply the brakes at the end. Always takes a bit until the brakes have fully released and the train starts. So this is what I mean. As soon as the train is rolling with a speed of 3 or 4 miles, I like to go into a second notch with the throttle. Because it feels like this is what gives you the best acceleration, but I'm not sure about this. I've seen people on YouTube videos like going forever in the first notch. Might be a difference between third rail and overhead. Or 45, I think I usually like to switch into the highest notch. And if you look at the acceleration curve, yeah, the subtle orange in the ground, in the clouds. The colors in the clouds, and the clouds themselves with the new skybox design. There are people actually saying this is overdone for a train simulator, but I don't think so at all. It adds a lot of depth and feeling of reality to the game. This burp sound was a Morpeth board warning us about a speed reduction to 60 miles. And if I remember correctly, I should start slowing down when I see those high shelves on the left side. Then there is a signal, and behind the signal is the 60. And here is one of those instances where you look on your screen, on your pause screen, and you think you have more than half a mile until the reduction of 30 comes, the reduction to 60 comes in, and think, well, I have all the time in the world, and then, zack, you're through it. So sometimes you have to be careful with this screen. Another incoming reduction here. For us, passenger trains to 60, freight trains to 35. So let's see if we can get the braking a bit better. Aiming for 25 when you hit the platform. And releasing the brakes. Applying them again. Aiming that the minimum application will get you to a stop in the position that you are supposed to be in. If you realize you're too fast, apply some more. And then try to do it in a way that you don't need to adjust too much. And I was a bit too short now. And here we are. This 3-step check before opening the doors, by the way, I think it means, are we at the right station? Are we in the correct stopping position? That usually is given by those markers. Train is actually not at the marker, even though we got into the perfect stop position. And then what was the third one? The 3 No, I forgot the third one. The third step check. Yeah, maybe if the brakes are on. So that it is made sure that the train cannot move when people are boarding. These stopping positions is a different story, or a whole story, by the way. You have it on the top left in the game. You can see the countdown and where the actual stopping position is. You can see it in the world with a marker if you turn it on. I always have it off, so you can't see it when I play the game. Well, this is the marker that decides how many points you get for being precise with your stop. And then this does not necessarily mean that this is the same position where the stop marker at the stations is. And sometimes the stop marker is in a position that the train is a bit in front of it. Sometimes it is in a position where it is somewhere else completely. And then, but this I think is a deeper rooted problem in the game, that everything is calculated from the position where the driver is and not from the tip of the train. So if actually the stop marker is in the perfect stop position, then the train will get to a stop with a driver at the position where the stop marker is and not where the tip of the train is. And this is some fine-tuning that can be done for making the game even better. We are now in a part of the track where we are going very slowly through a lot of old tunnels. Reduction to 30 here. And then the next station. Chatham. Again, let's try to get it to a stop. We have a yellow for a change. Get it to a stop just by applying the minimum. Let's see where we end up. Well, in the end, we needed to pump up the brakes, but this is not the problem. When the train is traveling really fast, you can put in the brakes to the max without annoying your passengers normally. At least without annoying them too much. It actually takes really a couple of seconds until the brakes have released. And I don't know if it is okay to release the brakes to a minimum before you start, or if you're actually required to keep them at max as long as you are at the station. I try to keep them at max at least as long until the doors are closed. Still 30. Going to Rochester or Rochester? Who knows with those names? And this is, if I'm not mistaken, where the submarine is. Well, yeah. Especially here on this deserted old platform. You could have some zombies here. A 465 that are now included in the extended version of this DLC. Used to be a separate DLC in the Train Sim World 2 universe. Yeah. Well, I'm getting a bit better with the brakes. By the way, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Did you notice those lights here? They are always lit as long as the doors are open, and they will extinguish as soon as the doors get closed. But what I wanted to show you is the submarine here. There is actually a submarine in the server. Like now, doors are closed. Light is off. And then I'd like to know if it is okay to go to minimum brakes here. And then turn them off and power handle on. And the train will start much faster. Ah, the zombies in the tunnel. Alright. I thought the zombies on the deserted platform. We mustn't forget we are still restricted to 30 miles with our high-speed train, but we're going across the bridge now. Mustn't speed on the bridge. Especially since we are diverging at the end of the bridge. And at the end of the bridge there will be a reduction in speed limit to 20. Like here. Going down. And then even a reduction to 15, but I don't exactly know where it starts. Because I have not succeeded so far in spotting a sign. But it is most often a safe choice to do it where the signals are. To assume that starting from here, the speed limit applies. This is Strood station, and I picked this service because usually with most other services you are stopping here, and on this service, maybe there are others, but this is one of the services where you don't stop at Strood, but just sneak through with 15 miles. That's kind of sweet. So this is the part where we know why this DLC is called Southeastern Highspeed. But as soon as the train is in the tunnel, we can at least go back to 70. Like now. Here in the tunnel it is actually difficult to find some marker for you to memorize and to know when you can accelerate. That was too early. There sometimes are strange light effects in the tunnel, like this. Did you see that? I'd like to know where this is coming from. Again. This can be a bit annoying when you're driving at night. Oh, I just forgot that. Ah, that's great. That'd be good. Yeah. What you see a lot on this DLCs are tunnels of every kind. Slow speed tunnels, high speed tunnels, tunnels with 2 tracks, twin tunnels with 1 track each, tunnels with overhead catenary, tunnels without, and a lot of beautiful landscape in between. So there is no stop between here and Ebbsfleet on this service here. Maybe I can change it when I'm at the next station. We're not stopping in Gravesend. This is something for your zombies. No, I don't think there are zombies in Gravesend. This is the part where the train rolls so neat. Almost on even ground, not accelerating, not slowing down, keeping its speed. And you can listen to the sound that it makes. So let's see if I can change the title. Did it work? Praise the flatness of the land here. It is a beautiful landscape. And even the water looks good now. Incoming. Another Javelin from the opposite direction. Getting ready for the 50. We'll get the boop for a... Oh! Shit, that was too fast. A 465. Yeah, got docked for speeding. I thought I had more time until I get to the 50 board, but nope. Let's at least try to not miss the 30 board now. That is supposed to be here between those arcs. And this is Gravesend here, no? Usually you're stopping here, but today we're not. Not with this service. Are you back in the chat, AJ, after I changed the title for the stream? Yeah, that's good. So, one last time, accelerating to close to 70, and then we're getting to Ebbsfleet, where we have to change the electricity mode. Alright, that's good. If you know it next time, I can forget it again. Yellow signal cleared before we got to the magnet. And the dogs want out again. Did not work to take them out before the stream. So there is the green light with the indicator to the left, and to the left there is a limit to 60. Now we get the message that we have to put down our shoe. We already did that. No, Chile. No, we can't go out now. We have been out before. Don't nudge me, I cannot brake properly if you do that. So, you can see that we have overhead catenary here already. So this is a section of the track where we can switch. We have the third rail and we have overhead. And here we are at the switching point. How do we do that? We have to get from the third rail to the overhead catenary. For that we need a pantograph, and to get the pantograph out we push the CTRL button. Hold it until it lights up. Then we still don't have a pantograph, but now we switch the power mode. And if you then push the pant up button, you will most probably see that the pantograph is going up somewhere on the train. It went up here. Here is our pantograph. And then never forget to press this button again if you're going to CTRL, because you have to close the the main circuit breaker. But you learn that in the tutorial that come with the game. What you don't learn in the tutorial with the game, or at least not in the extent that I want to introduce it here, is how to operate the TVM in-cab signaling system. The system is called TVM-430. That is the high-speed in-cab signaling system that the trains here use on the high-speed lines. It is a French system, hence the name Transmission Voie Machine, which means track-to-train transmission. And yeah, please pardon my French, I try to pronounce it halfway properly, but I usually do not succeed. So what is this system about? Usually on your track you have normal signals, and those signals divide the track in blocks. And at the beginning of each block the signal tells you about the status of this block and the block afterwards, so that you know if you have to slow down, if you are approaching a red one, and if there is a red one you cannot enter this block. With speeds that you travel on the high-speed lines like 220 or even 300 or 330, a driver or an engineer can usually not see those signals anymore, and for that they need to be displayed in the cab. Not the signals, we have seen that in the Boston route, but actually the limits that he has to adhere to. And at the same time, as a driver, you want to know at what points in the track a block ends and a new one begins. So for that you just get rid of the signals that have a color aspect or whatever, but you put up block markers. Those signs are the block marker signs. So if you're passing this sign, you know that you are in a new block, and your train in its display, its in-cab signaling display, displays the aspect for you that you would usually read from the signal that you're passing, and that you know that you're entering an area where those block markers substitute the signals. You get warned with this black sign here telling you now it starts. The white sign tells you get ready, it starts early. So this is the advanced warning. This is the sign that tells you no. A TVM block marker part of the track starts, and then at the end you get a sign like this, and then you know you're back to normal signals. So this is the idea about a system like this. You put signs at the end so that the driver knows where in the real life the block starts and the next one block ends and the next one starts. But what the signals tell you are not in the real world on the signals, but displayed in the train on a display. Then there are two things that you need to know. Those block markers are not always the same. There are especially two different versions of them. In the French system, this is a French system, and in France they have signs like F and NF, that means franchisable and non franchisable, what means passable and non-passable. What means this sign is a more stricter stop sign. So if your train tells you red at this signal, stop, then you actually have to stop and don't move. While at this you have to stop, and then you can proceed with caution in a very low speed, 30 kilometers. You know that properly from the American signaling system, where you have stop signals where you just have to stop and you cannot move until the signal changes its aspect. And you have those reds with a number plate, stop and proceed usually, and there you can proceed with restricted speed. So this is a bit similar to that. In the UK, where we have the system, but we don't have the French names and the French plates, so instead of franchisable and non franchisable, we have P for passable and N for non-passable. So we will see that in the game. Some of those block markers have the P sign, some have the N sign, and why this is important we will see that on the next slide. Because that was the part that is in the real world, and now the part that is on your cab. You will get displayed numbers in your display. If the numbers are white, then they tell you the current speed limit. White, no diamonds underneath. This is the actual current speed limit that you have to adhere to. Usually the background is black, but it can be green every time that when the current speed limit equals the line speed. Then you know, okay, my current speed limit is defined by the track limit, by the line speed, and not by something else, traffic, or because of an incoming stop or whatever. So white numerals always tell you the current speed. If they are on a black background, then you know that your current speed is below the track limit. If it is green, then you are running on track limit. If you get not white numerals but black numerals on white diamonds, then this informs you about an incoming reduction in speed limit. It tells you starting at the next block marker, your speed limit will be down to 120. The current speed limit you have to remember, because that is the aspect that was shown before. So if you get this, for example, 160, and at the next block marker it switches to 120 on diamonds, then you know, okay, until I hit the next block marker sign, I have to get my velocity down to 120. That's it, more or less. And then there is a second information that can be hidden in those displays. If the display is flashing, and all of those aspects here can be flashing, then there is the second information that in the second block, not in the upcoming block, but in the block afterwards, there will be a reduction in speed limit. So this works with current line speed. That means you are okay to go 160. If it starts flashing, then you still can go 160 and can still go 160 in the next block, but then after the second incoming block marker, you will have to reduce your speed. So typically you're running under this aspect, steady 160 white numerals. Then at the next block marker, they start flashing, telling you, okay, still 160 and no reduction on the next block, but in the block afterwards. And then at the next marker, it will turn to a diamond aspect, like 160 on diamonds. They can be still flashing, and they can be steady. If they are still flashing, then you know, okay, afterwards there will be another reduction. So from block to block, you're running in a funnel, velocity-wise, for example. So these two possibilities and these two parameters can actually be hidden in an aspect like this. If you are approaching a stop signal, you will get those zeros on red diamonds. And this means either you have to stop if it is a N block marker with an N plate, then you have to stop and remain there until the aspect changes. If it is a P, a passable marker, then you have to stop and proceed with 30 kilometers per hour. So this is why it is important what signal marker you are approaching. Since you have to stop, you have every time in the world to look at the plate and see what you have to do. So you stop in front of the signal, look at it. If it says N, then you stay there until the signal changes its aspect. If it is a P, you can go on with 30 kilometers maximum and with caution. If you see this and you just pass the N signal, then you are in for a nice prep talk with your supervisor, most probably, because then you have run a signal at a danger. If you see this and you passed a passable signal and you're still not running faster than the 30 kilometers, then the red squares actually remind you to stay in this limit of 30 kilometers per hour. Those are the aspects that you can get. I have not seen any red aspects in this DLC. You can see it on the DGV DLC in Train Sim World 2. If there are aspects of that kind in the Southeastern Highspeed, probably, but I have not seen them so far. But on the other hand, the game is not that old and I have not played it that much. Okay. This is what we will be seeing on the next part of the track. And what you can see here, the black cap sign telling you now this system starts. Let's see if we get some power. Yes, we're getting power, you can see that here. And the train is starting in the high speed part. And you see, white numerals on black ground. We have a speed limit of 130 at the moment. And it is not going to change 2 blocks ahead, because it has neither diamonds nor is it flashing. But it is lower than line speed because it is on black ground and not on green ground, so it can actually get higher. Those signals can change to the worse, meaning restricting your speed only if you pass one of those marker signs here, or in an emergency. But usually they can only get more restricted when you are passing one of those block marker signs, but they can get lifted anytime even between block markers. So we're running into the tunnel. And you see, now the aspect has changed. Speed limit went up to 225, which is the line speed. That's why it is on a green background. Thank you very much. And it is steady, no diamonds. It means at least 2 blocks in front of us we can go on with this speed. So we can go full throttle and have it run. You can see very quickly those block markers passing. Now we're getting out of the tunnel. And this is a gorgeous part of the track, with this bridge for the motorway and all the valley. I love this part of the track. Managing the speed here is actually not so easy, because the gradient changes rapidly and there are some really harsh declines and uphill parts, so you will be constantly busy to fine-tune your velocity here. And there, the accelerometer here, this indication for if your train is accelerating or decelerating or not. Now it is decelerating, even if we are in even though we are in full throttle, is very helpful. Don't even know if you see that on the in-game HUD. Probably now, but maybe not. What I find quite interesting is that it would totally be possible to link this signaling system with some sort of a cruise control, like AFB on German trains. But it is not done. They want a human being to set the speed according to all this information. Don't know how long this will be the case, but at the moment they want a human brain. As an interface. And in the tunnel, we're now getting closer to Stratford International Airport. Airport? Station, I mean. Is that an airport there? I don't know. So for managing the speed, I more or less let the speed bounce between 223 and 220. And adjust the throttle every time the speed runs out, or there is the danger of the speed running out. Yeah, the dogs again. Now the 225 starts flashing. That means on the next block we are still on 225, but afterwards it will drop. Every time the signal changes to a, like now, to a more restricting aspect, it beeps. And now we are still at 225, but at the next block marker we will be down to 200 and it will still be falling. So we can keep the brakes on because we have to go lower than 160. I'm actually too late with my speed, but it's okay for the game. I thought I did not make it until the block marker, but the game did not dock me. But you see, those block markers are so fast there and away. Not so much now because we are down to 100. There is no way to react to them if you had not the aspect in your in-cab display. Now there is a situation where the game gives you the distance in yards and the speed clock shows you your velocity in kilometers. So you actually need to be cautious that you don't get confused when you're planning your brake curve. And now you don't need to be down to 25 for the platform speed. But 40 is totally okay, so I'm actually a bit slow. But it's okay, we have the time, if you look at the timetable. Okay, so while we are sitting here, oh, I still have the camera on the pantograph. While we are sitting here waiting for passengers to board, I can change the lighting to day running. I've got still the night running lights on. This is actually an information that I could not find at what time or under what circumstances you switch from night lighting to day lighting. couldn't find it in the driver's handbook that is issued by the what's it called? RSSB, I think. Yeah, and since the next stop will be in London St Pancras, there is another safety system that you should be informed about. The KVB system, Contrôle de vitesse par balise, speed control by beacons or magnets or balises. This is this thing. We probably had a look when we started this train. It is in our cab and we turned it on, and what is it gonna do? Obviously it only works if the track has the installations that it needs to work with. So that's why we did not hear anything from this device so far. But when we get out of the tunnel in London St Pancras, there will be those installations now, and they are actually working. It is a train protection system. That means it stops the train with a penalty brake if the train is too fast, if it is approaching red signals or speed limit reductions too fast, then it can apply a penalty brake. It is not an in-cab signaling system because it does not give you any aspects. It does not give you any colored aspects. It does not give you any speeds, unlike the TVM system that we just had a look at. So what do we actually see on this thing? We have two fields, the left one and the right one. One is in orange, the other one is in green. And the idea is that the left one, the orange one, tells you what is coming up, and the green one what is actually enforced at the moment. And most of the time this thing will look like this. You will only have those dashes, 3 dashes, and they mean that KVB is actually monitoring whether you are running under line speed and are conform if you are agreeing with the line speed. So but in a way that it does not show you actually what it does, but this indicates you that you are under control. And if you go over line speed, at least up to 160, beyond 160 it does not work like this anymore, but in London St Pancras we will be not beyond the 160. So what is implemented in the game happens below the 160. If you go beyond the line speeds, then this indicator light will start flashing. The V for vitesse or velocity, it will start flashing as soon as you are 5 kilometers per hour or more above the speed limit that this little device calculates for you. And then you should reduce your speed, because otherwise, if you ignore it, you will run into a penalty brake. This is what this system looks like most of the time. If you're approaching a stop signal or the end of the track, like the buffers that you have in St Pancras where the track ends, then you will be getting zeros. 2 zeros in the orange tell you that you're approaching a stop, end of line, or a red signal, and that you are approaching a signal that requires you to approach it with a speed of not more than 30 kilometers per hour. Still incoming because it is on the orange section. If you are getting closer, it can happen that you can get a 3rd zero, and that warns you that the speed that you can approach the signal ahead is 10 or slower. And if the green zeros join, then this is actually enforced, an approach speed of 10 kilometers. So if you do not agree with that, then you will get a penalty brake. I discuss this here because this is actually something that we will be seeing when we are going into our stop position in London St Pancras. And if you do not adhere to what the system tells you, if you don't slow down, if the velocity indicator starts flashing, and if you do not adhere to those approach speeds that are given by the zeros, then you will get this. The FU does obviously not mean that you are 4-letter worded, but it is French for freinage d'urgence, what is an emergency brake. And this indicator, I think it is this indicator that is supposed to light up. We will see, probably not, because we will probably not get an emergency brake in the game. Not this indicator lights up, but the velocity indicator lights up steadily, not blinking but steadily if you get an emergency brake. I tried this out before. I think this is not correct. I think this indicator should be lighting up when you get a penalty brake. And then, as it is always with penalty brakes, your train gets slowed down to a stop, and then you have to resolve it. I have not found a different way than to put the reverser into off and on again, and then you can go on. Maybe there is a way to reset the train without doing this, but it works with putting the reverser into off. Yeah. And another feature about this system is that you can get a penalty brake even if you have not yet passed the sign that orders the reduction in speed limit. So if you have, like, running on a track with a speed limit of 90 and you're approaching a speed limit of 40, it is possible that this system activates a penalty brake when you are here, even though you have not passed the 40 sign. And why is that? It is because this system works with two curves, two brake curves, the penalty brake curve and the alerter curve. Let's look at this to understand it. This is where you can go with 90, and this is where you have to be slowed down to 40. That means in the speed diagram that we can see in our pause screen, for example, it will look like this. Speed limit, line speed 90, and then all of a sudden a step in this diagram down to 40. Obviously nobody on the train can slow down the train in a fraction of a second from 90 to 40 to comply with this speed limit. So what we do usually with our green line, our actual speed looks more like this. We have to go down steadily. It can be more curved, it can be with straights in between, something like this. There is always some part of this step that will be cut off because you have to, well, slow down to the speed limit. Let's take this out again. So what does the KVB system do now? It calculates according to information that it gets from a magnet. So somewhere in the track there is a magnet, and the magnet has it is more than a magnet. Actually, it is a transponder, and it sends information to the train. And there is a computer, and the computer gets especially information about an incoming speed limit and how much distance there is left until the speed limit applies, the speed limit reduction applies. And then the computer calculates a curve, a penalty brake curve. It calculates with what speed the train can go max to still be able to go down to 40, to slow down to 40 with a penalty brake. And obviously this is the brake curve. This is, if the train is in this spot here, for example, it can go that fast and still be able to go down to 40 with an emergency brake. And here, if it is in this position, it is a lower speed where it is still be able. And the system calculates this penalty brake curve. And if the train is in this position and it is faster, then the penalty brake curve speed is actually higher, then the train will stop it down. So it won't let the train go faster than this curve by applying a penalty brake. And because penalty brakes are not great because they cause a lot of trouble, the system calculates a second curve, the blue one here, that is below the penalty brake curve, and this is called the alerter curve. And if the train speed goes beyond the alerter curve at a certain point, like say the train is here and the train is still at line speed 90, then the system will start alerting the driver. It will start flashing lights, it will start beeping, it will do a lot of ruckus so that the driver knows, oops, I missed something. And then the driver can adjust its speed and get under the alert curve, so that we never get into the penalty brake curve. So if you look at our actual speed line here, then we must have been daydreaming because we were going closer to the 40 reduction and we did not react to it. So we went over the alert curve here. So at this point the system starts beeping, or the KVB system starts flashing its V indicator light. And then we saw, oops, we missed something obviously. We apply the brakes and get the speed below the alert curve. Then the flashing stops and everything is good and we can get there. We never go to a penalty brake. If we do not react to the alert, then we will at some point pass beyond the penalty brake curve and then the system will stop us. Yeah, this is why you can get a penalty brake even if you have not yet reached the sign that orders the reduction in speed limit. Back to the game, where we still have a couple of seconds until we can leave. And the next one is London St Pancras. And we will be in a tunnel. The TVM system tells us 100, not line speed, not getting worse in the next 2 blocks. Switched to 225 because it is a more favorable aspect. It could switch even if we did not, even though we did not pass a track marker, a block marker. And now we will most probably see that we will be getting flashing aspects before we even get close to the 225. What is always a bit challenging because you don't know what to do. Accelerate more, coast, or even brake. Let's see how fast we get. Like now, 225 starts flashing. That means second but next block marker there will be a reduction in speed limit. But since we are still far below, it will most probably switch to 200 on diamonds. That means it is totally safe to accelerate to 200 at the moment. is not flashing, that means those 200 stand. At least for 2 blocks. Now the 200 are actually line speed, but on the second but next block marker we will get a reduction. So let's not get too crazy. $160 incoming and still falling. There are the markers, ping, and now 100. And still falling means the 100 won't stand, it will still go below the 100. Because we're only 1.2 miles from St Pancras, and now do you want me to run into an emergency brake with the KVB system? So that we can see it, how it works deliberately. No? Okay, then I won't do it if you don't want it. Because we are at 80 here. The 80 is that boop was that we're going back to AWS. Oh, it wasn't a perfect run. I'm not really happy with my braking performance. Okay, we can go 80 here, but we have to slow down to 60 until we hit the next signal. But at least you can see the V button flashing at a certain point. Now, we kept below the alerter curve here. Maybe on the next signal. Next signal will be a reduction to 40. Let me stay on 50 and see if you can see the V buttons start flashing here. No, it doesn't flash. I think it should have started, but it didn't. Well, we have to live with that. At least you can see the dashes that tell you that the monitoring is active. Maybe we see at least the zeros when we go to the end of the track. Now we have the 00, incoming of 30. We are below 30, no sweat. Maybe we get the 00 as well for the incoming of 10. Yeah, the 00 we get. Let's see if we get the enforced. Until we are in our parking position. Oh, we won't get it anymore. Here we are. Okay. KVB disappointed me a bit because it did not flash the V indicator, but I have seen it flashing already in the game. Anyway, we are here in London St Pancras. It's modeled really nicely. London St Pancras now. And that's it for today. Return to free roam so that we can lock our train. If you leave your train, always turn on the driver. I never can remember what it is called. It is not a remembrance device, but something like this. This is our train. A beautiful train, and now someone else is going to take it back to Ashford or Faversham at 7:38. Thank you, AJ, for staying with me. Take care and see you soon.